Yet another ESPN insider has featured the Chicago Bulls under the trade rumor report. This time it features our star Zach LaVine going to the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm going to talk about all of that in this episode of Bulls Digest. I'm your host, Joey Mercer, and just before we get into it, I just want to say that about 91% of you that are watching are not subscribed. So if you're looking for daily content on the Chicago Bulls, look no further. Hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the notification. You don't even have to search up anything. You can get your daily info on the Chicago Bulls and everything you need to know throughout the season right here on Bulls Digest. So make sure to hit that subscribe button for more daily content that you're looking forward to. So the first thing I want to talk about today, of course, is Zach LaVine going to the Los Angeles Lakers. Yes, this has been featured by another ESPN insider. This time it is not Brian Windhorst, but however it is, of course, Mike Wilbon. Mike Wilbon tweeted out, and it says that he thinks Zach LaVine might be the third star that the Lakers need. This is interesting. It's an interesting take. Is this the move we're going to make, and how does this really make sense on both sides right now? Would this mean the Bulls go into a rebuild, or can we do a trade for multiple players and get LaVine on the Lakers that way? That's what we're going to be talking about more in this episode, so definitely stay tuned for that later in this video. Next, it said here in the article that I got this from, is there a bad team you want to go and say, okay, they're not in contention? They've got a potential third guy for the Lakers who will work in that complementary role. Who's not going to challenge LeBron? Who's going to be thrilled to be there with LeBron? Asked ESPN's Mike Wilbon, and that was on NBA Today on November 10th, just a couple days ago, because I got a guy, and that guy is Zach LaVine. Interesting fit there to think that Zach LaVine's the guy. The Bulls have started the season 3-6. The Lakers are only 4-5 themselves, but people look at them as a championship contender that just it hasn't been able to put things together so far, as they're just a piece away. But it's interesting to see that a team that is only a win better than the Bulls is being featured as a contender. Although in this early NBA season, of course, people's whole perception of the Lakers going in with LeBron getting older was definitely that they were going to be a contender this season after making the Western Conference Finals last year, although, of course, they were swept by the reigning champion Denver Nuggets. So interesting to see there that they're going to make another deep push, or that's what's on the agenda for them. Next, it said, I'm not mad about this, the host Chinny Ogwumike said. He can knock down a three. He can push the rock. He's complimentary. He's enough of a star to really play alongside LeBron. That is a championship team. I think if LaVine went there and they didn't have to sacrifice AD or Austin Reeves, of course, I think that's a championship team for sure. Zach LaVine, I've talked about how if he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he could be so much more lethal. If he's playing alongside a guy like LeBron James, that's exactly where he needs to be. This works out really well for Zach LaVine, but I don't know if it works out completely well for the Chicago Bulls because we have to see exactly what we're going to be getting back. It also said, you're not doing any good on the Bulls. What are they doing, said Wilbon. It's hard to say right now. Lonzo is out. Lonzo is not healthy. I keep saying this, but Lonzo was the biggest part of that team when we made it in the playoffs just 2 seasons ago. He was the guy that really ran the ship. He was the best point guard we've had since Derrick Rose, and he really, really played some great defense, a great playmaker, and was able to really see the floor and knock down an open three at a high rate. He was playing phenomenal for us. When LaVine was next to him, LaVine looked like a completely different player. DeMar even looked like a completely different player. That was what was best for the team, and we're just really missing him right now. His absence is causing a lot of stress under the other players, and of course, they're trying to fill that void in the front office, but we just haven't found that piece just yet. The next thing I want to talk about today is how does this work cap-wise? Is this going to work out for either team? Are we going to be able to get a deal done? So I actually went on and looked online on different deals that could be made. The ESPN Trade Finder was down at the time, but I will tell you the players that I had in mind. And that was D'Angelo Russell, who has struggled but might be better in a different fit, and Rui Hachimura. Two of those players make up about $33 million for this year, and Zach LaVine is making $40 million. If we added Jalen Hood-Schifino and maybe a Max Christie or another lower level guy, we would get up very close to that $40 million. If they're able to do that and maybe add a protected first round pick, or even a second for that matter, if we think that the value is there for LaVine, then I think that's a deal that could work for both sides right now. The Lakers do not have the prospects or cap spaces. They're almost $71 million in the hole right now to be able to trade for Zach LaVine and just simply absorb his salary. They would be too far in the luxury tax for it to be worth it for them. So the only way this works out is by still keeping the Bulls competent and getting D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura, or they would have to add like an Austin Reeves or somebody like that. It's just not going to work out on the Lakers' end. So those are the two guys that I would have at the top of it. The rest of the pieces don't really matter, but those would be the two guys that I would think that a deal would be sampled around. Those would be the center of the deal. This trade, however, cannot be made until I believe it's January 15th because they just signed new contracts in the offseason, and you're not allowed to make these trades until January 15th. It would be for new contracts, it's December 10th. January 15th is when their salary increases, which is what happened for both of these players. So that's the earliest that we're going to be able to make this deal happen, but it is still before the trade deadline, much before actually, so there won't be any worries there. So it's definitely still a deal that could be on the table and could be feasible for both teams to make work. Obviously, the Bulls could add on their end as well if there were other pieces coming back, but at the bare minimum, that would have to be offered for just Zach LaVine. Next I want to talk about is, should the Bulls move LaVine? Is this a move that should happen? Is it something we should do right now, or do we think that we can still win with this team, with this core? I have to say, as a Bulls fan, it's a little worrisome. This core has just not gotten it done without Lonzo Ball, and I'm not sure that they're going to make a deep playoff push with Lonzo Ball. I think we're definitely a playoff team with Lonzo Ball, but I don't think we're good enough to be a contender. So I think making this move would definitely make sense, as LaVine is the guy on the team that probably has the most trade value, and he is also the guy on the team that can give us the most assets back. Trade value and assets are very different things in my opinion. You can have high trade value and not get proper assets, but I believe Zach LaVine with his play style and trade value combined will get us the right assets back on the team that we can still remain a solid team right now, but not necessarily a contender. And when Lonzo comes back, if we were to have Rui Hachimura and D'Angelo Russell, we could definitely be a solid playoff team, and it would probably be better than if we just had Zach LaVine. I'm not sure if the Lakers want to do a deal like that, but if they were, it would definitely be a solid fit for the Bulls and a solid fit for the Lakers, as those two players aren't contributing enough for their team, and they really have a hole at the wing position that Zach LaVine could fill right away. It would fit both teams' needs, which is why I'm talking about this deal. So the other thing that I saw here was LaVine has repeatedly stated his commitment to the organization and his love for the city, but the persistent trade rumors have not gone unnoticed by LaVine, a West Coast native who lives and trains in Los Angeles during the offseason. It's important to note here that LaVine, of course, played for UCLA in college and came out as a real slasher. He didn't seem like a guy that was going to develop that much of a three-point shot, although he was capable of it in college. Since he's joined the Bulls, he has really flourished in a three-point shooting role, and he can shoot it from quite range as well. It's a lot of distance on his three ball. But yeah, he trains in LA, played at UCLA. He's an LA kid. That's something that has to be taken into effect here, because they do seem to want to play in LA, those type of guys. We now have Russell Westbrook, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and James Harden all on the Clippers, and they really want to be there. Although Anthony Davis is from Chicago, he wants to be in LA because LeBron lives in LA. Those guys, it was easy for them to make a deal done because they want to play in LA. It's near Hollywood. It's got a lot of better things than Chicago has when it comes to the scenery, the weather, all of that sort of thing really draws players to it more than Chicago, even though Chicago is one of the biggest fan bases in NBA. I mean, our Bulls fan base is great. I gotta say, top to bottom, a lot of fans for the Chicago Bulls. And I see more and more every year, so it's great to see lots of support for a team that hasn't been making a solid playoff push in over 10 years now. Last thing I want to state here is that LaVine said this about the trade rumors. It's always rumors, but I always heard where there's smoke, there's fire. LaVine said via NBC Sports Bay Area, and that was back in August 5th. And every once in a while, you see a little too much smoke. So what he means by that is there's too much rumors happening in the media. Uh, nothing really being done about it. There's just too many trade proposals, people in the trade machine, people in the media. But this really seems this time that it is time for a deal to be done. It seems like it's time for them to pull the trigger on it, get a deal done, get him to where he needs to be, and get some assets back for Zach LaVine. His lapses on the defensive end have not been enough, and he really isn't getting where he needs to be on the Bulls. I'd love to support the Chicago Bulls, but I'm not sure if it's a fit on either end at this moment, and each day my opinion change on that matter each day, in my opinion, just because it's LaVine will have a great game, then he doesn't have such a good game, then he's turning over a bunch and he's not playing defense, but then he'll have another great game and he draws me back in. So it really all depends. It's very situational for me how I feel about Zach LaVine, but as of right now, he shot the ball really well. He's turned it over a lot, not a lot of defense. I think right now it's time to sell high. I think they need to make this move to the Lakers in January if they're able to. And that's all I got to say on this topic here today. I hope that you liked the video. Make sure to like it down below if you did. Make sure to comment on the video. And like I mentioned at the top, make sure you subscribe. We're doing daily Bulls content here. And this is the best channel to get it from. So make sure that you subscribe down below. And I'll see you in the next video. Signing out.